waiting, Pat. You just take your time. You're good. So you're doing fine. Mom is. We took her last Wednesday night to Encompass Health Rehab down at by Baptist Hospital there in Fort Smith. I just couldn't get her to eat or drink and didn't want to move, so the doctor recommended that for a couple of weeks. Try to get her to motivated to do something. And we went down there yesterday, and she seems to be improving. So that was the purpose of it.
Holly was there for 2 weeks sometime.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it did him more good than anything.
yeah. So
I highly recommend it.
so that's where she's at right now. Hopefully, we can bring her back home. That's what our hope is. So. Need to remember though, folks up at Claremore and Pryor and all that, boy, and even over into Rogers and Bentonville. Donna's got a cousin that lives in Bentonville, and they've had damage. So anyway, this time of year, we got them everywhere. So everybody be careful and remember those folks in our prayers. We'd gotten down to verse 14 in the 26th chapter of Matthew. If you remember last week, you know, they had the reference there in verse 3 about the chief priests and the elders. They gathered together and they was plotting how to kill Jesus. Okay? This was their plan all along. So keep that in mind as we go through. There in verse 14. Then one of the 12 named Judas Iscariot went to the chief priest and said, "What are you willing to give me to betray him to you?" What stood out in that verse right there to y'all? Okay, that's part of it. Yeah. What stood out in your mind there? He went to them. Did you think about that? Yeah. Of course, you know, we had record back earlier about him. He was kind of he carried the purse or the wallet, as we might say, for the apostles as they went on their travel. $52. That's 30. Well, we'll get to that in just a second. But you stop and think about that. That's what just caught my eye. We always think about the chief priests and scribes. They're trying to look for any way to get to Jesus. You would think they'd be approaching him. But Judas went to them. And his question was, "What are you willing to give me to betray him?" What does that make you think of Judas now? Satan entered into him, yeah. Yeah, he made that way. But you know, you stop and think about it. Can Satan enter into people today? There you go. Yeah. The inclination evidently was there. Satan took a hold of it. But that just struck me that Judas went to them and said, "What are you willing to give me? What are you willing to give me to betray him?" Tempted him. He made that inclination. Evidently, what was Judas's weakness? Money. Money. Is that still a weakness today? There are people today that will sell for a lot cheaper than 30 pieces of silver. You just stop and think about that. We talk about Judas, how terrible he was. Yeah, that was bad. But there's people today that'll do it for a lot less than that. Now, look here, and we'll finish the verse now. And they weighed out 30 pieces of silver to him. From then on, he began looking for a good opportunity to betray Jesus. You know, you stop and think, I don't know how that was related to, say, a year's wages or I don't know what that equivalent to. But it seemed awful cheap to me. Okay? And so he was looking for an opportunity now to betray Jesus. So keep that in your mind as we continue on. Yes.
Is it your understanding that the reason that Judas betrayed Jesus was for financial gain? Solely.
I don't know if it was solely that, but at this point, evidently it was a big part of it. Yeah. I've heard it different ways. Yeah, I'm with you on that. I've heard it different ways. Especially, when you stop and think, well, the devil was in control of Judas. That's how people think. Was the devil in control of Judas here? There you go. That's right. Just like Kathy was saying, the temptation was there for Judas. He could have said, "Oh man, I'm not going to do that." But what did he do? He stepped right in the middle of it. How much are you people going to give me? Okay.
I've heard individuals say that the motivating factor for Judas was that he was frustrated with Jesus, and he was going to give Jesus that nudge to establish his kingdom, start the rebellion against the Romans. And I don't know where they get that.
I don't know. Do you think he was of the thinking that there should have been an earthly kingdom? Is that what the thought of that was?
Now, I'm not saying that's what I'm thinking.
Right, but I've heard. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I don't know. I mean, that's not how it's looking, because we'll get a little further down and I'll tell you what reason I'm saying that. Because let's look at verse 17 now. We'll continue the thought. Now, on the first day of the unleavened bread, the disciples came to Jesus and asked, "Where do you want us to prepare for you to eat the Passover?" What is the feast of the unleavened bread before we go any further? Does anyone know? Do you remember? No? Yeah. The feast of the unleavened bread. Do you remember what that was? All right. Let's look in Exodus, the 12th chapter. If you have your Bibles, turn over to that right quick. Exodus, the 12th chapter, and I'm going to read a couple, 3 verses, from 18 through 20. In the first month of the 14th day of the month, at evening, you shall eat unleavened bread until the 21st day of the month at evening. 7 days there shall be no leaven found in your houses. For whoever eats what is leavened, that person shall be cut off from the congregation of Israel, whether he is an alien or a native of the land. You shall not eat anything leavened in all your dwellings. You shall eat unleavened bread. This all goes back to them coming out of the land of Egypt. Okay? This was a big celebration for them coming out of the land of Egypt, captivity. Okay? So keep that in mind. They couldn't have anything with leaven in it. Any bread. It mainly yeast is the way I understand it. Jerry. I'm not a chef or a cook, but the yeast is what what does the leavening. You know, it's the leaven part, makes it rise. Okay? So this was something that was particularly made out for this certain feast, them coming out of the land of Egypt. Now, keeping that in mind, it says in verse 18, the apostles was asking, where do you want us to try to find the place for the Passover? Because it's coming up too. And he said, go into the city and a certain man and say to him, the teacher says, my time is near, and I am to keep the Passover at your house with my disciples. And the disciples did as Jesus had directed them, and they prepared the Passover. So, you know, you stop and think about this. Jesus done this more than once, hadn't he? Told them, go in. It's going to be ready for you. Take care of it. Make preparations. That's what they did here.
Do you know the time frame that we're looking at when Judas agreed to betray and when he actually betrayed him? Or is it that 7 days of the unleavened bread festival?
It's not going to be very long. I don't remember the exact days.
You're right. Jesus, when he was betrayed, was Tuesday or Wednesday?
And then on Friday, and Jesus. I knew it was in the same week, but I couldn't. I don't know. I don't know exact day. You know, it wasn't too long beforehand. I'll know that.
So the Passover is going to fall within this festival of the unleavened bread.
Yes, that's the way I understand. Yeah, in there somehow. So in verse 20 now. Now when evening came, Jesus was reclining at the table with his 12 disciples. We talked about earlier. They didn't have chairs. They kind of laid down, reclining at the table. As they were eating, he said, truly I say to you that one of you will betray me. Okay, get a mental picture of what's taking place. Here they're reclining at the table, all of them around a big table. Jesus said, one of you, talking to the 12, is going to betray me. Being deeply grieved, they each one began to say, surely not I, Lord. You can see this happening, couldn't you? Each one of them said, it's not me, is it? It's not me.
Don't you think Jesus really knew who it was?
Oh, yeah. No doubt. No doubt. He knew. Because let's continue on. And he answered, verse 23, he who dipped his hand with me in the bowl is the one who will betray me. The Son of Man is to go, just as it is written of him, but woe to that man by whom the Son of Man is betrayed. It would have been better, it would have been good for that man if he had not been born. Verse 25. And Judas, who was betraying him, said, surely is it not I, Rabbi? Jesus said to him, you have said it yourself. That took quite a bit of, you stop and think about Judas's situation here. Here with all the other disciples. Every one of them said, is it me? Is it me? Surely it's not I. And then here he asks, surely is it not I, Rabbi? I can just visualize Jesus looking him in the eye and telling them this. You have said it yourself. You know, you stop and think about that. It doesn't say any more here at this point about, you would think Judas would just left, wouldn't you? He just walked out. It doesn't say that. It doesn't give the account at this point. Verse 26. While they were eating, Jesus took some bread, and after a blessing, he broke it and gave it to his disciples, said, "Take, eat, this is my body." And when he had taken a cup and given thanks, he gave it to them, saying, "Drink from it, all of you, for this is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins. But I say to you, I will not drink of this fruit of the wine from now until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." Okay, what has he just done here? What is he, it's a brief overview. It doesn't give much detail. What is Jesus does, we may say, instituted at this point? The Lord's Supper. This is giving them kind of a blueprint. This is giving them an example.
I have a question.
Yeah.
About in the Father's kingdom, is that talking about the church?
Mm-hmm. Do you think at this point, do you think the disciples understood what was taking place here?
Probably not fully.
They didn't understand what was all taking place. Here they understand they took bread, they understand he took the fruit of the vine, he blessed it, gave it to them. They still probably, it didn't click yet. It hasn't really sunk in what is all going on. After singing a hymn, they went out into the Mount of Olives. Have you ever paid attention to that before, about them singing a hymn? That's the first time it's really dawned on me that they sang. It doesn't give that account or that record anywhere else as far as I know. Verse 31. Here they was going out to the Mount of Olives. Then Jesus said to them, You will all fall away because of me this night. For it is written, I will strike down the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock shall be scattered. But after I will have been raised, I will go ahead to you to Galilee. You stop and think about the things Jesus is saying here. You wish he would just say things, this is what's going to happen. But he doesn't talk straight like that, does he? But they understood some things, but not all. Just like you and I today, there's a lot of things I don't understand. But Peter, verse 33, said to him, Even though all may fall away because of you, I will never fall away. Does that not sound like Peter? Jump right in the middle of it. That's him. Everybody else may fall away, Lord, but I will not. I will not. Jesus said to him, verse 34, Truly I say to you that this very night, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. Peter said to him, Even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you. All the disciples said the same thing too. Think about what he's just said here. Jesus told him, You're going to deny me 3 times. You're going to deny me 3 times. Peter said, Even if I have to go with you and die with you, Lord, I'm not going to deny you. But not only him, but all the disciples said the same thing. We can say a lot of things, but when the going gets tough, That separates us, don't it? I mean, we have good intentions. Don't get me wrong. Everyone has intentions to do what should be done. But when the tribulation and the strife starts happening, sometimes we fall. Yeah. Yeah. Well, up to this point, have they ever laid hold of Jesus? At this point, had that ever happened beforehand? No. No, they never had really just took hold, just had action against Jesus. That's going to change. And that's going to change the whole atmosphere that they've been involved in. Okay? Let's continue on. Verse 36 now. Then Jesus came with them to a place called Gethsemane and said to his disciples, "Sit here while I go over there and pray." And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee and began to grieve and distress. Okay, let's stop right there. He took 3 people with him. Okay? He took Peter and the 2 sons of Zebedee, which is James and John. Yeah. And began to grieve and distress. What is Jesus doing right here? He knows what's coming. Do you think prayer is involved here? Yes, it is. And evidently it is a very powerful, meaningful prayer. You talking about putting everything he's got into it. He's doing it right here. He began to grieve and distress. Then he said to them, "My soul is deeply grieved to the point of death. Remain here and keep watch with me." What's he telling the disciples to do? Just be here. Just sit here with me. And he went a little beyond them and fell on his face and prayed, saying, "My Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will." We don't want to think a lot of times that, was Jesus human? You think about this. Does anyone want to face what Jesus was getting ready to face? And knowing what he was going to face? Everybody right here would be in the same boat. Lord, if it's possible, let's do something else. He knew what was coming. Yeah. That's right. No. No. Yes. That's true. That is very true. That's right. If he'd have said, "Lord, I've changed my mind, send down them angels, we're just going to forget this. Let's go on back." Could he have done that? Could he have said, "No, I'm not going to do this"? But he didn't. Why? For us. For them. The love that he had. He knew there was no other way for us to be saved. Let's stop right there, and we will take up next week and continue on.